We all experience pain. But what if I told you that the extreme pain you're going through, whether it's emotional, physical, or even spiritual, is not just suffering, but a test from something greater than yourself. A test designed not to break you, but to awaken something deep within you. Do you ever wonder why some people endure unimaginable suffering and come out stronger, wiser, transformed, and others collapse under the weight of it? Could it be that those who emerge with newfound clarity understood the test, while others didn't even realize they were being tested? Imagine this: a monk deep in the mountains sits in silence for years, enduring hunger, loneliness, and the raw forces of nature. Why? Because he knows that pain is not punishment. Pain is a doorway. And those who walk through it with awareness, who truly face their suffering, are the ones who unlock a higher level of existence. But what about you? What if your suffering is not random? What if it's not meaningless? What if it's something ancient, something sacred, a challenge designed uniquely for you? Right now, you might be questioning everything. You might feel lost, broken, abandoned. But what if I told you that these very feelings are the first sign? The first sign that you're in the middle of a spiritual test. The universe, the divine, or whatever you believe in it, doesn't test the weak. It only tests those who have the potential to awaken.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
And here's where it gets even deeper. Think about the hardest moments of your life. The moments where you felt like you couldn't breathe, like the weight of existence was too much to carry. What if those moments were actually messages? What if the pain wasn't trying to destroy you, but to initiate you, to push you beyond what you thought was possible? Let's go further. Have you ever noticed that when you're in extreme pain, time feels different? Reality itself seems to bend. You become hyper-aware of every second, every thought, every sensation, almost like you're being pulled out of the ordinary world and into something else, something sacred. This is not an accident. This is what ancient mystics, shamans, and spiritual masters have described for centuries. Extreme pain forces you into the present moment. It strips away illusions. It forces you to see what's real. And this is one of the first signs that your suffering is not just suffering, it's a test. But here's the catch: most people fail the test because they resist it. They fight it. They try to numb it, escape it, run from it. And in doing so, they miss the transformation. They miss the awakening. Pain is like fire. If you resist it, it burns you. But if you learn how to move through it, it forges you. It turns you into something stronger, something purer, something unstoppable. The second sign: isolation. Have you ever noticed that deep suffering often comes with a profound sense of aloneness? It's as if the universe pulls people away from you. Friends disappear. Loved ones don't understand. You try to explain what you're going through, but words feel empty. No one truly gets it, and so you're left alone with your pain. But what if this isn't a curse? What if it's part of the test? Look at every great spiritual figure in history. Every enlightened master, every awakened being. Before their transformation, they all experienced isolation. Buddha left his palace and wandered alone. Jesus spent 40 days in the desert. Even modern seekers, those who have gone deep into meditation, report that before their greatest insights, they felt utterly alone. Why? Because isolation forces you inward. It removes distractions. It strips away everything external so that you have no choice but to face yourself. And facing yourself is the hardest, yet most necessary part of the test. But here's where most people go wrong. They mistake isolation for abandonment. They believe the universe has forgotten them and that no one cares. But in reality, this solitude is an invitation to go deeper than you ever have before, and to confront things within yourself that you've been avoiding for years, maybe even lifetimes. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your pain is trying to teach you something, but you just can't figure out what it is? Almost like there's a lesson hidden inside of it, but you don't have the key to unlock it. This is the third sign. The feeling that something is trying to reveal itself to you, but you're not quite seeing it yet. And this is where many people give up. They get frustrated. They ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead of asking, "What is this trying to show me?" And that one shift, just that one shift in perspective can change everything. Because the moment you stop resisting and start listening, the test begins to reveal itself, and the pain starts to speak. And if you're truly ready to hear it, it will tell you exactly what you need to know. Think about this. Every great breakthrough in human history, whether in philosophy, spirituality, art, or science, came from someone who was willing to endure suffering without running from it. They sat with it. They let it shape them. They let it break them open. And in that breaking, something new emerged, something greater than what existed before. So what about you? Are you willing to face your pain? Not just endure it, not just survive it, but truly face it. Because if you are, then you're already ahead of most people. You're already on the path. You're already passing the test. But it doesn't end here. The next sign is even more intense. Because once you start facing your suffering, something strange happens. Reality itself begins to shift. Synchronicities appear. You start seeing signs everywhere, numbers, symbols, messages hidden in everyday life. It's as if the universe is whispering to you, guiding you. But most people ignore these signs. They dismiss them as coincidences. They doubt themselves, and in doing so, they close the door to something incredible. Let me ask you, have you ever had a moment where you just knew something was happening beyond logic? A dream that felt too real? A sudden insight that came out of nowhere? A feeling that someone or something was trying to communicate with you? If so, then you're already experiencing the fourth sign. The sign that your suffering is not meaningless. It's a test. And if you're willing to see it, it could be the most important test of your life. But we're only scratching the surface. There are still deeper layers to this, and the next signs will take us even further. Are you ready to go deeper? Are you ready to uncover the truth behind your suffering? Keep watching. This is only the beginning. So now we've established that your pain isn't random. It isn't meaningless. It isn't just suffering, it's a test. A test designed to awaken something inside you that most people never discover in their entire lifetime. And if you've made it this far, it means you're already walking a path that few dare to take. But the journey isn't over. In fact, it's about to get even more intense. Let's go deeper. Interpretate. The fifth sign that your extreme pain is a spiritual test is that everything that used to make sense suddenly stops making sense. When you go through deep suffering, the world around you starts to feel unreal. The things you used to care about suddenly seem trivial. Conversations that once felt engaging now feel empty. You look at society, at the way people live their lives mindlessly chasing money, success, distractions, and you start to wonder what the point of it all really is. This is not depression. This is not you losing your way. This is a sign that you're waking up, because when you're in extreme pain, the illusion of life begins to crack. You start to see through it. You start to realize that most of what people chase is meaningless. And here's the dangerous part: most people can't handle this realization. So they try to go back. They try to force themselves to care about the things they used to care about. They try to distract themselves, numb themselves, pretend they don't see what they see. But once the illusion cracks, you cannot unsee it. And this is where the real test begins. What do you do when the world stops making sense? Do you try to go back to the way things were? Or do you surrender to the transformation that's happening inside you? Because if you choose to surrender, if you choose to let go of everything you thought you knew, then something incredible happens. You begin to see the world for what it truly is. And this leads directly to the sixth sign. You start losing parts of yourself that you thought were permanent. Your identity starts to dissolve. The person you thought you were, the labels, the roles, the attachments, they all start falling away. And at first, this feels terrifying. Because if you're not who you thought you were, then who are you? This is one of the hardest parts of the test, because most people spend their entire lives building an identity. They say, I am this kind of person. I believe in this. I do this for a living. I have these goals. But extreme suffering shatters identity. It strips away everything false. It takes away the things you thought defined you, your job, your relationships, your beliefs, until you are left with nothing but the raw essence of who you truly are. And here's where the paradox comes in. Losing yourself is the only way to truly find yourself. Because once you let go of everything you thought you were, something deeper emerges. A version of you that is not based on external things. A version of you that is connected to something greater. A version of you that is unshakable. But most people don't make it to this stage. Most people cling to their old identity, even as it's being ripped away. They fight to hold on to the past. And in doing so, they miss the transformation that was trying to happen. Now let me ask you, have you ever felt like you were dissolving? Like the person you used to be is slipping away, and you don't know who you are anymore? If so, don't resist it. This is not the end. This is the rebirth. And now, the final sign. The most powerful. The one that changes everything. The seventh and final sign that your extreme pain is a spiritual test is this. You start feeling an unexplainable connection to something greater. At first, it's subtle. A feeling. A knowing. A sense that you are not alone, even in your deepest suffering. Then, synchronicities start happening more frequently. You think of something and suddenly it appears in your life. You ask for guidance, and within hours or days, the answer comes, sometimes in a dream, sometimes in a conversation, sometimes in a way so mysterious that it sends chills down your spine. It's as if reality itself is responding to you, speaking to you, guiding you. And this is when you realize the pain was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. Because once you reach this stage, once you pass through the fire of suffering, you emerge different, wiser, more awake, more in tune with the deeper reality of existence. And from this point forward, life is never the same. Now, let's go even deeper. What if I told you that the greatest spiritual masters of all time, the ones who reached the highest levels of enlightenment, went through the same test you're going through right now? What if I told you that before their awakening, they too were broken, lost, in pain so deep that they thought they wouldn't survive it? Because this is the hidden truth of spiritual awakening. It is born from suffering. It is forged in the fire of pain. And the difference between those who awaken and those who don't? One simple thing: they didn't run from the test. They faced it. They surrendered to it. They allowed it to transform them. So now, I ask you, will you run from your suffering? Will you numb it, escape it, deny it, or will you face it and let it awaken you? Because if you choose to face it, if you choose to surrender to the test, then something incredible will happen. The pain will stop controlling you. The suffering will stop defining you. And you will step into a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more powerful than you ever imagined. And when that happens, you will look back at your suffering and you will see it for what it truly was. Not a curse, not a punishment, but the greatest gift you were ever given. Now that we've uncovered the 7 signs, there's one final truth that most people never realize: the test isn't just about surviving suffering. It's about who you become because of it. The real transformation doesn't happen when the pain ends. It happens when you finally stop resisting it. When you stop seeing suffering as something unfair and start seeing it as a force that is shaping you into something greater. But here's the part no one talks about. Not everyone passes the test. Not because they aren't strong enough, but because they don't recognize that they are being tested. They mistake suffering for punishment. They believe the universe is against them. They sink into bitterness, anger, and resentment, never realizing that the pain was never meant to break them, it was meant to awaken them. The truth is, suffering is one of the most powerful forces in existence. It has the ability to destroy, but it also has the ability to transform. And the difference between those who are broken by suffering and those who are awakened by it comes down to one thing: perspective. Because once you shift your perspective, once you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" everything changes. The pain doesn't disappear, but it stops controlling you. It stops defining you. And in that moment, you reclaim your power. Let's go even deeper. What if I told you that every single person who has ever achieved true mastery, whether in spirituality, wisdom, art, or even life itself, went through this exact process? What if I told you that the difference between an ordinary person and a truly awakened being isn't talent, intelligence, or privilege, but the willingness to face suffering without running from it? Look at the greatest spiritual teachers in history. Look at the monks who meditate for years in isolation. Look at the warriors who train their minds and bodies beyond normal human limits. Look at the artists, the visionaries, the revolutionaries who created something so profound that it changed the world. Every single one of them had to walk through the fire of suffering first. And here's something even crazier. What if the pain you're going through right now isn't just a test, but a calling? A calling into something greater. A calling into a level of existence that most people will never experience because they never dared to go beyond their suffering. Think about it. What if the universe is not punishing you, but preparing you? What if everything that has been stripped away from you was never meant to stay? What if the things you lost, the identity that dissolved, the suffering that tore you apart, what if all of it was clearing the way for something so much bigger than you ever imagined? But here's the thing, most people will never see this truth. Most people will spend their lives running from pain, numbing it, avoiding it, pretending it doesn't exist. And in doing so, they will never discover what was waiting on the other side. Because the other side of suffering is something most people never reach. The other side of suffering is freedom. Not the kind of freedom that comes from escaping pain, but the kind of freedom that comes from no longer being afraid of it. Because once you stop fearing pain, once you stop resisting it, you realize something shocking: pain never had power over you to begin with. The power was always yours. And the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of suffering and start seeing yourself as the one who masters it, everything changes. You stop feeling lost because you realize the pain was never meant to make you lost, it was meant to make you see. You stop feeling alone because you realize the test was always meant to bring you closer to something greater. You stop feeling broken because you realize you were never broken to begin with, you were just being remade. And once you reach this level, once you pass the test, something even more incredible happens. You gain something that cannot be taught, cannot be faked, and cannot be taken away from you. You gain wisdom. Not the kind of wisdom that comes from books, teachers, or ideas, but the kind of wisdom that can only be earned through experience. The kind of wisdom that changes you at the deepest level. The kind of wisdom that gives you presence. Have you ever met someone who has been through so much suffering, yet when you look into their eyes, all you see is peace? A presence so deep that just being near them makes you feel calmer, stronger, more grounded. This is what happens when you pass the test. You don't just survive suffering, you transcend it. You become something that suffering can no longer touch. And from that moment on, everything in your life changes, not because the world changes, but because you change. The things that used to trigger you no longer have power over you. The fears that used to control you lose their grip. The chaos of life no longer shakes you because you have already faced the storm, walked through the fire, and emerged untouched. And this is the final secret. Once you reach this level, suffering no longer comes to you as punishment. It comes to you as a message. It comes as a teacher. It comes as a tool to shape you into something even greater than you were before. And when you reach this level, you no longer fear suffering. You no longer resist it. You welcome it, because you know that every time it arrives, it is bringing you closer to something you cannot yet see. So now, I ask you one final question. Will you run from this test? Will you try to escape it, numb it, avoid it? Or will you face it, surrender to it, and let it transform you? Because if you choose to face it, if you choose to walk through the fire with your eyes open, you will discover something that most people never will. You will discover that on the other side of suffering, there is something greater than anything you've ever known. And once you reach that place, you will never be the same again. This is your test. This is your initiation. The choice is yours.